Thank you for joining us on this Monday edition of Morning Offering. It's time for a chat with Pat. And Chat, you have a great chat all lined up, don't you, Pat?
Yes. Today we're going to be talking to Robert Marshall. He spent 26 years in the Virginia House of Delegates, author of Reclaiming the Republic. He did an expose on Planned Parenthood. He's married, lives in Virginia with his wife and 5 children. And we're going to be talking about an article he wrote for Catholic Culture on, and the title is Trump is Wrong on IVF, Support Restorative Fertility Instead. Hello, Robert. How are you today?
Well, I'm awake and ready for your questions.
Wonderful. This is an amazing article. There's so much in it, and I know we've only got like 8 or 9 minutes. But can you tell the audience what this executive order did concerning in vitro fertilization?
The executive order from the president wants to expand IVF access. Now, if he does that, he is going to be at war with his own program on DOGE or cost cutting, and he's going to be at war with his program of Make America Healthy Again, because there is no compatibility at all between the offering of IVF and saying that you're cost cutting or that you're making America healthy again. Let me give you an example.
Please.
The Catholic Medical Association sent a letter to the president, and they identified restorative medicine, restorative reproductive medicine as much more efficient and much less expensive. Let me give you an example. This is from the Paul VI Institute at Creighton University. The cost per treatment of this restorative medicine approach is $322. The cost per treatment cycle of the IVF is $9,226. Now, Pat, if I said, "Look, I'm going to sell you this toaster for $1, or I got a real good deal over here," you can pay $28.65. Where does the smart money go?
Exactly.
I mean, really, it can't go. Moreover, the problems are severe with this process. Nicole Shanahan, who was the vice presidential candidate for Robert Kennedy, has been very severely criticizing IVF. She says the IVF clinics are financially incentivized to offer egg freezing and IVF, not incentivized to offer other fertility services. A survey, which I put in the article, done at the University of Rome, published in December, conducted a review of IVF studies of outcomes of women who had endometriosis. When you had endometriosis, you were significantly less likely to have a lower implantation rate. Well, wait a minute.
Right.
Aren't these people out here for having babies? Well, yes and no. Because what that means is if you lower the implantation or success rate of conceptions, you get to sell another treatment pattern to desperate couples. Whereas if you're only spending $322, this is not, a monetary incentive.
Yeah. And I think part of it, too, is, and I don't know, I have a niece that is trained in NAPRO technology. She's a practitioner. And, she gets frustrated because so much of this IVF stuff, insurance will cover things, but with NAPRO, even though it's a low cost, if they have to pay for it out of their pocket, then it's like, oh, well, insurance will cover this. So it's like we've got this double-edged sword coming at us a lot of times.
No, our side doesn't have the lobby power that the other side does.
Yeah.
But let me get back to the success rate of the NAPRO treatment. Endometriosis, they can overcome it from 56.7% to 76% of the time. If you do in vitro, you are having it successful at 21.2% of the time.
Yeah.
Polycystic ovaries, 62.5 to 80% success. Polycystic ovaries with IVF, 25.6%. So this is a problem. Also, when the when Congress in 1992 changed a law to require IVF clinics to do some reporting of how they operate, they were changing many administrative processes, but they're not asking the clinics to report not even a single complication to an IVF mother or a single complication to the IVF child. Surveys clearly show that you've got many more problems with IVF than you have natural conceptions. And even the reporting is bad on this. I cite a November 2020 human reproduction study. Says the collection agencies in Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and the United States, all adverse complications are observed after RTF, such as ovarian hyperstimulation, infections, and hemorrhage, are not covered by the CDC. Complications ongoing during pregnancy are also not recorded systematically, and moreover, the health status of the child or a complication from IVF is only taken at birth, when in fact most of the complications show up in the first year. But they don't want to do this. This is not very helpful. You've got greater incidence of ovarian cancer if you use IVF. If you take IVF, a study from Sweden showed that thromboembolism occurred in 4.2 per 1,000 women after IVF, compared with 2.5 from natural conceptions. Now, again, who's going to bet on this? If this comes out, it cannot possibly survive you. Now, I dealt in my article with a significant number of issues, including ethics. But the ones that I think that the public is most ignorant on is the medical complications. And if you want documentation, it's there. And I urge your listeners to go to the White House blog, just type in White House Connect or contact President Trump. You'll get a little dialogue box where you can type in things. Read my article first and say, you cannot do the IVF. It just doesn't make sense on your terms.
Right. So my question here as we get close to the end, Robert, is you do something on, like you talk about people who are opposed to abortion, people who believe that life begins at conception, and yet still a majority of them favor IVF. So what's our disconnect?
The disconnect is very low public education. The church has got to do much more in the way of telling the individuals in the pew what this in fact consists of. Because you're right, there's a third of Americans believe human life begins at conception, and at that point is when personhood is initiated. Yet 59% of those are fine with in vitro fertilization. They don't know. The only three options for in vitro are implantation, being frozen for God knows how many years, or being designated an experimental test subject for human experimentation. That is completely unethical.
Right. And it amazes me that the church has been clear on this teaching for a long time. I mean, they've had documents out, for decades now on this. And yet people just, I don't know, it just seems like they think if it's scientifically possible, it's okay.
Well, the media doesn't help them very much with the information, because their greatest power is to keep people ignorant, which on this issue, they do very well.
Yeah. Oh, Robert, this was an amazing article. I would encourage people to go to CatholicCulture.org and look for his article. Robert Marshall, 26 years in the Virginia House of Delegates. He authored Reclaiming the Public, wrote an expose on Planned Parenthood, married with 5 kids. Thanks so much, Robert, for this article and for being on the show.
Thank you, Pat, for doing it.
What a great conversation.
Yeah. Mike, and how timely. I mean, this obviously, as opposed to the teachings of the Catholic Church, a lot of people are just kind of falling for it because of the language wrapped around it. We need clarity.
Yep, exactly. And I think that, I'm just amazed that we don't understand what is done in these clinics.
Yeah.
Like, we just think you do this process, you get a baby, and there you go. Yeah. I mean, even from a rational standpoint, even not a religious standpoint, the success rate is low, and it's only higher among young women. So those women anyway would probably do better with this restorative fertility. So there's a lot here.
Well, and the numbers are out. There are more deaths because of IVF than there are because of abortion.
Absolutely.
So we've got to be cognizant of that.